2:57 a.m. The water is glass black, silent. Somewhere beneath those still Persian Gulf waters, 6 American attack submarines have been holding their breath for 72 hours. Above the waterline, the USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group, the most expensive and heavily defended naval formation ever assembled, sits in formation at the mouth of the Strait of Hormuz. No lights, no noise, just waiting. Because American intelligence already knows. 3 days earlier, in RO, reconnaissance satellites had flagged unusual convoy activity near Bandar Abbas and the Zagros mountain tunnel complexes. Signals intelligence, NSA intercepts, detected encrypted IRGC command traffic spiking at a frequency last seen during the 2024 Red Sea escalation. The CIA's Tehran station sent a 4-word cable. They are moving assets. Washington did not blink. It doubled down. Quietly, without press releases, 2 B-21 Raider stealth bombers were repositioned from Diego Garcia. A 3rd Virginia-class submarine slipped into the Gulf. F-35C squadrons aboard the Ford were placed on 5-minute alert status. America set the table. Iran just didn't know it was the dinner. 3:15 a.m. Then the sky broke open. From hardened silos beneath the Zagros Mountains, from mobile launchers scattered along the coastal roads near Bandar Abbas, and from a network of hidden IRGC bunkers that Iranian commanders believed were invisible, 187 projectiles simultaneously burst upward into the night sky. Let me pause here and ask you something. Did you know that Iran's current missile arsenal includes Russian-assisted guidance systems and Chinese-manufactured fuel components? This isn't a rogue state firing alone. This is a proxy war fought with allied hardware. The arsenal, 38 Shahab-3 medium-range ballistic missiles upgraded with Russian GLONASS terminal guidance. 55 Fateh 313 precision cruise missiles built using Chinese composite technology smuggled through front companies in the UAE. And 94 Shahed 238 jet-powered kamikaze drones, a lethal evolution of the same platform that has struck Ukrainian cities, now armed with shape-charged warheads designed specifically to defeat American CIWS point defense systems. In Tehran, IRGC commanders stood around glowing screens, watching 187 tracks ascend. They called it Operation Persian Judgment. They believed the sheer volume of simultaneous, multi-axis, multi-altitude threats would create what military planners call engagement saturation. Too many threats arriving too fast from too many directions for any defense system to process. They had wargamed this scenario 14 times. They had never once modeled what American space assets would do in the first 2 seconds. Here's something your school textbooks never told you. The real first line of American defense isn't in the ocean. It isn't even in the sky. It's 35,000 kilometers above your head. The Space-Based Infrared System, SBIRS, doesn't use visible light. It reads heat. And a ballistic missile launch creates a thermal signature hotter than a small city the moment it ignites. SBIRS detected the first launch plume within 1.8 seconds of ignition. Automated threat assessment algorithms, running on quantum-accelerated processors at Colorado Springs, had classified, counted, and trajectory mapped all 187 incoming threats before the Iranian launch officers had even closed the bunker blast doors. The data burst arrived on the combat screens of USS Gerald R. Ford's Combat Direction Center in under 4 seconds from the first Iranian missile leaving its rail. The Ford's Aegis Baseline 10 system did not sound an alarm. There was no alarm. There was only a soft electronic chime, and then total computational clarity. 187 targets, 14 trajectory clusters, Impact window, 11 to 19 minutes. No panic. No shouting. The Aegis operators moved with the calm precision of surgeons who have rehearsed this exact operation 1,000 times. Because they had. 3:17 a.m. Tell me in the comments, have you ever seen what an SM-3 Block 2A intercept looks like from the ground? Keep reading. You're about to understand why it terrifies every missile engineer on Earth. The Mark 41 vertical launch systems across the strike group opened simultaneously. From four Arleigh Burke Flight 3 destroyers and from 2 Ticonderoga-class cruisers, a total of 94 SM-3 Block 2A interceptors tore upward into the stratosphere. The SM-3 carries no explosive warhead. It kills with math. A 20-kilogram kinetic warhead closes on its target at a combined closing speed exceeding 10 kilometers per second. The collision releases energy equivalent to a small building being destroyed in a single frame. The Shahab-3 missiles, which Iranian commanders believed were unstoppable, began winking out of existence at 120, 150, 180 kilometers altitude. Debris rained silently into the black water far below, invisible and harmless. At lower altitudes, the SM-6 batteries on the Arleigh Burke destroyers engaged the cruise missile wave. The AN/SPY-6 radar, 35 times more sensitive than its predecessor, tracked the Fateh 313s with the effortlessness of a man tracking flies in a lit room. Each SM-6 is a guided weapon that updates its flight path 20 times per second. The cruise missiles never had a chance. Then came the drones. 94 Shahd 238 jet-powered drones crossed the 30-kilometer boundary in tight formation clusters, a tactic designed to overwhelm point defenses by sheer simultaneous arrival. IRGC planners had specifically studied American CIWS limitations and believed this formation geometry would create blind spots. What they did not account for, the Phalanx Block 1B had been upgraded, and behind it, something new. The USS Ford had been fitted with the Navy's first operational high-energy laser system, the Helios, capable of engaging drone-sized targets at the speed of light with zero reload time and effectively unlimited magazine depth. The drones burned, not from explosions, from invisible beams of focused energy that heated their airframes to structural failure in under 3 seconds per target. Can you imagine being an Iranian drone operator, watching your entire swarm disappear from radar like someone flicked off a light switch? 1 second, 94 contacts. The next, silence. Final intercept count: 187 launched, 187 destroyed. Not one Iranian projectile reached visual range of the USS Gerald R. Ford. Not one American sailor was injured. The IRGC had spent 5 years and an estimated $4.2 billion building, acquiring, and positioning that strike package. It lasted 14 minutes. 3:22 a.m. I need you to understand something before I continue. What happens next is not revenge. It is doctrine. American military doctrine has one rule above all others. When you fire on American forces, you do not get to reload. U.S. CENTCOM's retaliatory strike package, Operation Hormuz Reckoning, had been pre-authorized and pre-loaded before the first Iranian missile even crossed the coastline. The Ford's flight deck became a furnace of controlled chaos. 36 F-35C Lightning IIs launched in 3 waves, their weapon bays carrying AGM-158 BJASSMER cruise missiles, weapons with a 925-kilometer range and a radar cross-section the size of a golf ball. Each aircraft carried 4. That is 144 cruise missiles from fighters alone, every one GPS/INS guided to within 1 meter of its designated target. Behind them, F/A-18G Growler electronic warfare aircraft deployed first, flooding Iranian radar frequencies with targeted jamming that rendered every remaining S-300 battery and Bavar 373 air defense system completely blind. Iran's Chinese-supplied HQ-9 systems, gifted through backdoor channels and positioned around key installations, never even got a targeting lock. They were electronically lobotomized before they could speak. Then the B-21 raiders announced themselves. They had been orbiting Iranian airspace for 2 hours, invisible, patient, waiting for exactly this moment. 2 aircraft, silent as thought, each carrying 24 GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, the only conventional weapon on Earth designed to destroy hardened underground bunkers buried 60 meters beneath reinforced concrete. The underground missile production facilities beneath Isfahan and the hardened IRGC command complex near Natanz, facilities that Iranian engineers had spent a decade digging deeper specifically to survive American airstrikes, ceased to exist at 3:31 a.m. The seismic sensors in Baghdad registered a 3.8 magnitude tremor. From beneath the Persian Gulf, 6 Virginia-class submarines simultaneously opened their vertical launch tubes. 180 Tomahawk Block 5 missiles, the latest variant, capable of in-flight target updates and equipped with anti-jamming navigation, broached the surface simultaneously across a 40-kilometer arc and climbed toward their targets. 180 simultaneous Tomahawk launches. Have you ever tried to visualize that? Comment below if this is the first time you've heard these numbers. Most people have no idea. Targets: IRGC missile command nodes, fuel and oxidizer storage facilities, naval base infrastructure at Bandar Abbas, 3 coastal radar stations that had been providing over-the-horizon targeting data, and critically, the drone manufacturing complex near Sharaud, the same facility that had produced the Shahed 238s used in tonight's attack, and the same facility supplying drone components to Russia's war in Ukraine. That factory had been on the Pentagon's target list for 18 months, waiting for a legal trigger. Iran provided it at 3:15 a.m., 33 minutes, the same amount of time it takes to watch a single episode of a television series. In 33 minutes, Iran's entire offensive military capability, the hardware it spent 3 decades and immeasurable national treasure building, the arsenal that Russia helped upgrade and China helped supply, was reduced to coordinates on a damage assessment map. The numbers when the sun rose over the Strait of Hormuz. Iranian side, 187 projectiles intercepted at 0 American cost. Estimated 14 high-value military installations destroyed. The drone production complex at Shahraud completely leveled. The underground missile assembly lines at Isfahan collapsed. IRGC Naval Command at Bandar Abbas, non-operational. Estimated 2,800 IRGC military personnel killed or wounded in the retaliatory strikes. 0 civilian areas targeted. Every single weapon directed at military infrastructure only. American side, 0 ships damaged. 0 aircraft lost. 0 casualties. That asymmetry, that absolute, brutal, mathematical gap is the message. Not just to Tehran, to Moscow, which supplied the guidance systems, to Beijing, which supplied the composite materials. The message reads, your hardware cannot save a partner who crosses this line. In the hours that followed, Russian President Putin issued a formal statement condemning American aggression, while quietly ordering the withdrawal of Russian military advisors from 3 Iranian bases. China's foreign ministry released a carefully worded communique calling for restraint from all parties,
diplomatic language that every intelligence agency on Earth translated identically. We are stepping back. When a great power bleeds its partner in a proxy confrontation and loses, it does not escalate. It recalculates. Here is my question for you.
And I genuinely want your answer in the comments. Do you believe Iran's leadership truly understood what they were triggering? Or do you think they calculated on Chinese and Russian backing to change the outcome and were abandoned at the critical moment? Because that is the real story of Operation Hormuz Reckoning. Not the missiles, not the intercepts, not even the devastation. The real story is the silence from Moscow and Beijing at 3:48 a.m. When the smoke cleared and their hardware had been comprehensively erased without a single American casualty. Great powers have always understood a fundamental truth that regional powers sometimes forget in their ambition. Restraint is not weakness, it is calculation. And calculated American restraint, the choice to absorb provocation for years, to negotiate, to sanction, to warn, has a limit. When that limit is crossed, what follows is not anger. What follows is precision. The Strait of Hormuz stood open at sunrise. Oil prices, after a brief overnight spike, settled. The global energy supply was uninterrupted. And somewhere in a reinforced bunker beneath Tehran, military commanders who had spent years planning Operation Persian Judgment were staring at damage assessment photos, trying to understand how 33 minutes had erased 30 years of weapons development. The answer is simple. They brought quantity to a quality fight. They brought 1970s doctrine to a 2026 battlefield. And they brought regional ambition to a confrontation with a global power that had been quietly, patiently, technologically preparing for this exact scenario for 2 decades. If you watch this to the end, you now understand the real-world balance of military power better than most people who read mainstream news coverage of this region. Here's what I want from you. Drop a comment. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me what you think Iran's miscalculation really was. And tell me, do you believe any nation will test this boundary again? Because history doesn't always repeat itself, but arrogance? Arrogance has a remarkable memory. Like this video if it opened your eyes. Share it with someone who thinks military power is only about numbers. And subscribe, because the next scenario we cover will shake you even more. The world is changing. You should understand how.